We have a special guest here in the studio. This is Derek Lee. He is the founder and the owner of Brain Health Formulas. Thanks for coming in today on this cold, windy day.
Thanks for having me. This is fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, for our viewers that know nothing about your company, tell us about all the wellness supplements that you provide.
So what the company is founded on is based on an amino acid complex I developed. And so I was diagnosed with 13 autoimmune disorders and or diseases. All depends on how you want to look at it. Once I developed amino acids, so 13 diseases and given less than 6 months to live and based on brain degradation. And all of this stemmed from a traumatic brain injury as a very young child. And so by the time I was in high school, I couldn't remember what I was having for breakfast in high school.
Wow.
And so what I've started, when I recognized, just in the last few years, is I ate the same thing for breakfast for like 30 years, so I could remember what I was actually eating for breakfast.
Wow.
So I just recognized the pattern versus actually remembering what I was eating.
Wow.
And so those are, so I was diagnosed with fully developed dementia in December of 2019.
Oh my gosh.
And that's when I was given less than 6 months to live based on brain degradation.
Wow.
And I would get lost in the supermarkets. I would forget how to open up a door. I would, I knew I was on death's door. That's how bad I was, that's what kind of shape I was in. There's probably 150 days out of, in a year where I knew I was not going to wake up the next day.
That is scary.
And so this is what prompted me to, because science and medicine don't have any answers for brain-related issues. So that's why there's no answers for any type of disease. Most disease or disorders are based in the brain. And so this is what prompted me to have to view science and medicine from a different place. So what I did was, okay, what are humans composed of? In the simplest form, we are just chains of amino acids.
The building blocks of life.
Building blocks of everything carbon-based. And so that's how I approached this. It's like, okay, we'll have to find some type of chain of amino acids that can possibly start to work on rebuilding something within the body, something within the brain. And it took me a few months to cobble something together. And once I kind of felt that or experienced the benefits of my first attempt, I'm like, okay, this can work. And I just built from there. And so it took me 2 years to refine and restore to the we'll say somewhat polished formula it is now. And it took me 6 months to reverse all my autoimmune disorders / diseases, including polycythemia, which is a blood disorder.
Wow.
And it took me an additional 6 months to regain, I would say, 90% of my memories that I'd never had zero access to before. And so about a year from start to finish to get to where I mostly am now. But what amazes me and surprises me is a year ago, I developed 3 different treatments to treat 3 different types of cancer. And so a year ago, I was looking at, how am I going to improve upon this? How am I going to do something greater? Well, in the last year, I've developed formulas to reverse symptoms of ALS. We've been able to reverse symptoms of multiple sclerosis. We've improved symptoms of Alzheimer's and dementia from an emotional place. We've been able to do stuff in the last year that I didn't even think was possible. And so what I recently just developed a new formula we just released a few days ago called Intercell, where we actually been able to access, because I was thinking of the glands like thyroid, prostate, and pancreas. I've always thought that we could rebuild those glands at the place of the gland through the body, through nutrition, specific nutrients to rebuild that gland, and it wasn't working. I couldn't figure out why. So when I built this new formula called Intercell, I recognized that we have to access a specific component in the brain in order to access to the thyroid. So we have to access the information in the brain in order to turn on the capability and rebuild the gland first.
Wow, this is so fascinating, and you are clearly a walking testament to the effectiveness of your supplements. I wish we could talk to you about this more. We're running out of time. I could talk about this all day long, but if you guys want to learn more, head over to brainhealthformulas.com.